All right, get ready to rewire your understanding a bit, listeners, because today we're diving deep into a career that's got a real charge to it.
It's all about energy systems engineering.
Energy systems engineering, yeah, we're tackling that.
Big topic, lots to unpack.
It is a big one, and we're going deep with RoleCatcher's career guide on this one.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic resource.
To really get into not just what these engineers do,
The what, the how, the why,
the how to actually become one.
the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and we've got the excerpts right here.
Laid out, ready to go.
I'm already kind of fascinated because I feel like, I don't know about you, but
Running.
when I hear energy systems engineer, my brain goes kind of basic.
Solar panels? Wind turbines?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
is that it? But this guide is telling me, no, it's way bigger.
It goes way deeper. It's not just about slapping up a solar panel.
Okay.
It's about the whole system, the whole shebang.
So what does that even mean, the system? What are we talking about here?
So RoleCatcher really hits on this. They say these engineers are into both energy conversion, how do you take the raw stuff and make it power?
Right, make it usable.
Exactly. But then there's distribution.
Getting it where it needs to go.
And not just getting it there reliably, efficiently, all that.
So less about installing, more like designing the entire energy grid of the future or something.
Now you're getting it.
Is that too grand?
Not at all. We're talking efficiency, but on a massive scale.
Okay.
Like, how do you weave renewables into what we already have, but make it better? That's grid modernization, and it's huge for these folks.
See, that's already blowing my mind a little because I had a much simpler picture.
It's a complex field for sure.
And here's what really stood out to me in the guide, that I was not expecting the money side.
Oh, the financials.
Yeah. It says that's a big part of this role, not just the straight engineering.
It's true, and it often gets overlooked. You're not just dealing with megawatts, you're dealing with budgets, projections.
Making sure the stuff is actually, like, affordable.
Right.
So someone who's thinking this sounds cool, but there may be more numbers oriented that could be a good fit.
Absolutely. Brushing up on the business side of things could be huge. Project financing, renewable energy economics, that kind of thing.
So it's not just that you can design a system that works.
There's going to be dollars and cents, too.
It's got to work in the real world.
That's the name of the game.
Which, honestly, that makes it even more interesting to me, that tension.
Because it's not just theoretical, right?
Right. Like, the most brilliant energy solution, but if it costs $1 zillion, no one's building it.
And that's where these engineers come in. They're the ones bridging that gap.
Oh, I like that. Bridging the gap between the big ideas and the actual making it happen.
Exactly. They're finding that sweet spot where innovation meets reality.
I was talking to, this is totally separate, but relevant, the CEO of a renewable energy startup.
Oh, yeah. What'd they have to say?
And he said almost the same thing, that some of his best engineers, they get the business side.
They see the whole picture.
And that made all the difference in actually getting projects off the ground.
Because you can have the best idea in the world, but if you can't sell it, if you can't make it financially viable, it's going nowhere.
It's going nowhere fast.
And that's why that combination of skills is so valuable in this field.
That's gold right there. Speaking of valuable, let's get into what it actually takes to get into this field. Because we've established it's not just knowing where to put a solar panel.
It's a whole lot more.
So skills-wise, education-wise, what's RoleCatcher saying?
All right, so you're going to need a solid base in STEM. That's a given. But get ready for a curveball because they highlight some skills you might not expect.
Okay, I like a good curveball. Hit me. Okay, I like a good curveball. Hit me.
They list communication and active listening as essential.
For real. See, in my head, engineer equals
Equations.
not necessarily like giving a big presentation or, brainstorming in a team.
It's easy to forget engineering, especially this. It's a team sport.
Yeah.
You're not just off doing calculations by yourself.
Right. There are other humans involved.
Yeah, you got other engineers. You got to get these complex ideas across to the client, the public.
Oh, especially with energy, right? Because people have feelings about it.
Big time.
Right.
A new power plant, a wind farm that's going to impact communities. So being able to explain it all clearly, that's huge.
That makes total sense. I hadn't even thought about that side of it.
And RoleCatcher's on a roll. They don't stop there. Active learning, they say that, and always updating your knowledge.
Oh, because this isn't like you learn it once and you're good, is it?
Not even close.
Mm.
Energy is moving so fast, new tech all the time.
So you've got to kind of be a nerd about it in a good way.
Gotta stay curious.
Always be learning, otherwise you get left behind real quick.
That's the game.
Speaking of learning, what's the actual path? I'm going to guess you need some serious engineering chops to even get in the door.
You are correct. The guide is pretty clear. A bachelor's degree is usually how this starts.
In what specifically?
Mechanical, electrical, or straight-up energy engineering are the most common.
Makes sense. You got to know how the stuff works before you start redesigning it.
Exactly. Got to have that strong foundation in thermodynamics, all those core principles.
But I'm curious, is that the only way in? What if someone's coming from, like, they studied environmental stuff or chemical engineering?
Interesting you should ask that because the guide does touch on that.
Does it?
It does. They actually say a background in chemical or environmental engineering that is a possible path too.
Huh. So it's not quite as narrow as I thought it might be.
It's becoming more multidisciplinary for sure, especially with the focus on sustainability.
So if you've got that passion for the planet, and you like to problem solve, you might have some skills that transfer over.
You might be surprised.
That's actually really encouraging to hear. Not everyone follows the, like, straight and narrow path, right?
Nope, life's twisty. But they do say usually a bachelor's is just the beginning.
So then you're on to more degrees.
A lot of folks go for a master's.
To specialize in something specific.
Yeah. Could be renewable energy integration or smart grid tech. That's a big one.
So that's where you kind of get ahead.
It can give you an edge, definitely.
It makes me think about the career stages we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah, how it actually plays out.
Does RoleCatcher get into that at all?
They do. They even give you some example profiles, which is super helpful.
Like, okay, I'm fresh out of school. What am I doing?
Exactly. Entry level, you're probably assisting these senior engineers.
Getting the coffee.
Well, maybe not coffee, but definitely doing energy audits, research, that sort of thing.
So lots of learning on the job at that point.
Tons of it. Getting that hands-on experience.
And then you work your way up to, what, junior engineer?
Yep. And that's where you start taking on a bit more responsibility.
Like, what are they actually doing?
Developing energy models, analyzing data, maybe even contributing to the actual design of a project.
So it's not all just theory anymore. They're starting to do the real thing.
You're taking those concepts and putting them into practice in the real world.
That's pretty cool. It seems like you move up pretty quickly in this field.
There's a lot to learn, so you're kind of thrown in the deep end a bit.
I like it. Sink or swim. Okay, so you've got entry level, junior engineer. What comes next?
Mid-level is where things get juicy.
Oh, how so?
This is where you might be leading a project.
Whoa, already?
Yeah, you could be in charge of designing and implementing energy efficiency upgrades, or managing teams, or...
Hold on, managing teams now, that's a whole other skill set.
Right, you're not just an engineer anymore, you're leading people.
And we know how much people love being led.
It's a delicate dance, my friend.
So you've got to have those people skills, the communication we talked about earlier, that's coming back around.
It all ties together, and mid-level is also where certifications can give you a real leg up.
Oh yeah, the guide mentioned that, the Certified Energy Manager, CEM.
That's the one. It shows you're serious, you know your stuff.
Like a stamp of approval, right?
Exactly. It tells employers you're not messing around, you've gone the extra mile.
So if you're aiming for that mid-level jump, that's something to keep in mind.
Definitely worth considering. It's an investment in your future, really.
And for those who, they're in it for the long haul, they get to the top of the mountain, what does a seasoned energy systems engineer, what are they doing day to day according to RoleCatcher?
Now you're talking about the big leagues, the folks shaping the entire energy landscape.
Ooh, I like that.
They're leading these huge projects, integrating renewables into the grid at a massive scale, figuring out energy storage. It's big picture stuff.
So they've kind of moved beyond just the day-to-day technical challenges.
They've got one eye on the future, always.
And they're thinking about, like, how do we power the world in a way that actually works long-term?
Exactly. They're not just solving today's problems, they're anticipating tomorrow's challenges.
That's a lot of pressure, but also kind of amazing to be at the forefront of that.
It's a huge responsibility, but the impact they can have is incredible.
Totally. Was there anything else in the guide about this senior level that really stood out to you?
They emphasize how these engineers are almost like advisors,
Advisors to who? Like the government?
Could be. They're influencing policy, they're shaping regulations, they're even advocating for sustainable practices at the highest levels.
So they're not just engineers at that point. They're almost like energy diplomats or something.
In a way, yeah. They've got the technical knowledge, but they also understand the bigger picture, the economic, the political, the social implications of energy.
That's fascinating. So it's really a multifaceted career path. You start with the technical, but you can end up in this really influential position.
You could say they have their fingers on the pulse of the future of energy.
Love it. And it's not just about, like, being a lone genius, right? The guide talked about networking, too.
Oh, absolutely. That's key at every stage, but especially as you move up.
The CEO I spoke to, he was saying the same thing, that networking was how he found some of his best people.
It makes a difference because it's not just what you know, it's who you know and who knows what you bring to the table.
Exactly, and those connections, they can lead to opportunities you never even imagined.
And in a field like this, where things are changing so rapidly, it's invaluable to have those connections, to bounce ideas off each other, to stay ahead of the curve.
So, listeners, if you're intrigued by this field, hit up some industry events, join some professional organizations, get chatting, put yourself out there.
RoleCatcher actually recommends the Association of Energy Engineers, AE.
AEE, good to know.
Yeah, great resource for connecting with others in the field. Plus, they've got tons of information, job boards, all that good stuff.
So there you go. Your homework for today, look up the AE.
Consider it assigned.
And on that note, I think we've pretty much exhausted our energy, no pun intended, on energy systems engineering.
I think we've tapped into a powerful topic today.
We have, and listeners, if this sparked your interest, definitely check out RoleCatcher's full guide because there's so much more there to explore.
Your path to a brighter future, potentially.
See you next time for another deep dive.